From the heart of Statesboro and straight down the Blue Mile, this is the Blue Mile Breakdown, your weekly dive into Georgia Southern football. Now here's your host, Brendan Sapp, Hail Southern and GATA.
What is going on, Eagle Nation? Welcome to the third edition of the Blue Mile Breakdown. I am your host, Brendan Sapp, and I'm in a better mood today. Probably the best mood I've been in so far making one of these. Yep, that's right. Georgia Southern takes on the win in the Georgia Grown Bowl to even the all-time series at 6 apiece with Gag State. Some are calling it a statement win. I'm not sure what statement we made other than this is a game we should have won anyway. But I'm glad to see us back in the win column, back to see us back on the right side of the W. And I got to point out a few things. I really got to point out a few things. Things I've been harping on. 3 areas I've been harping on so far. Our third down efficiency has been trash all year. Went 9 for 13. That's pretty good. Penalties. That's been the other big issue that I've been harping on. We only had 4. 4 penalties for 43 yards throughout the entire game. What a difference. What a difference. And turnovers. 0 turnovers. No turnovers, only 4 penalties, 9 for 13 on third downs. What more could you ask for from a team that's been doing 3 or 4 turnovers, almost 150 yards in penalties, and going about 20% on third downs? I think they played with great efficiency. Some of the play calling was still a little questionable. First half defensive tackles were back to arm tackling. I'm sure you guys noticed that. But it looked like Helton made some adjustments at halftime, and the Eagles came out, and they played a better game in the second half. I mean, I'm excited. We won. I'm always going to be happy. It is well with my soul when Georgia Southern puts a notch in the win column. I'm always going to be excited about that. So let's go over the game a little bit. I'm going to pull up some stats here, read some things off for you. We went 50% on fourth downs, went 1 for 2. Here's the part that still bothers me, because this is the part we can't do against the rest of these teams we play and still win. We gave up 444 yards of offense. 441 yards of offense. They had 24 more yards of offense than we did in the game. We had 420. They had 444. They outdid us in passing, 280 yards to 212. We got them in rushing. We held a team to under 200 yards rushing for the first time this year. I'm excited about that. But again, it's Georgia State. We had 208 rushing yards on 42 attempts. We were averaging 5 yards a carry, which is pretty good. But they were averaging 4.8. So looking at it from the defensive side of the ball, that's not great. You know, I think a factor with the defense this week looking a little better, we did get Latrell Bullard back finally. He is a monster, an absolute monster on that defensive line. It was great to see him out there doing his thing again. Cracking heads, man. He looked good. He looked healthy. Glad to see Bullard back. I think that made a big difference against the rush. Being able to clog that lineup with Bullard and make some plays in the backfield that we got to see. Defense, to me, I can't really say they played better. I can't say that they played better as a whole when they gave up 444 yards, but they look better against the run than they have in previous weeks. So I guess I'll take the good with the bad and just count that as a W for the defense. I mean, I think we still got some stuff to work on. It's a win though. So I'm not gonna be Debbie Downer because we did win. So I want to see more of what we saw this week. I want to see obviously wins, but I want to see more of Weston Bryant involved in the offense. I want to see more of 3 or 4 penalties a game versus 12 or 15. And I want the turnovers to stay at 0, man. I think if we do that, we got a good chance to win out. I do 100% believe that the East is done. James Madison, I believe, already has that wrapped up. I saw somebody on Facebook saying that the East isn't out of reach. We can win the East. No, it's far out of reach. James Madison is not going to lose 3 conference games this year. And even if they lost 2, they've got head-to-head with us. So the East is wrapped up for us anyway. I don't think anybody in the East is going to catch James Madison. So what are we playing for, right? Well, we're playing for a bowl game. We're playing for that elusive bowl win. We're sitting at 3-4, 1-2 in the Sun Belt. Barring some catastrophic event, I do not see James Madison dropping three conference games this year. Now, with that being said, it's not like we have nothing to play for, because from where we were coming out of these last 2 games to where we are coming out of this Georgia State game, there's optimism. Is it unfounded optimism? I guess that remains to be seen. I don't know that we roll through Old Dominion, App State, Marshall, the way we did Georgia State, because I mean it is Georgia State, guys. But we won, and like I said, I'm happy about that. Let's look at some by the numbers here, player stat wise. Game leaders: J.C. French was not only the leading passer for Georgia Southern, but also the leading rusher. He had 85 rushing yards. O.J. Arnold, the leading receiver, with 85 receiving yards on 4 receptions. French with 210 passing yards. Now, we allowed Brown for Georgia State 280 passing yards and 120 rushing yards. So their quarterback accounted for 400 of their offensive yards. Again, to me, just kind of unacceptable that we allow that. You know what I mean? Looking at the Sun Belt East, James Madison, of course, sitting on top, 6-1 and 4-0. Coastal Carolina right behind them at 3-1 in the conference. Marshall at 2-1, and then App State, Old Dominion, and Georgia Southern, all 3 sitting at 1-2 in the conference. And Georgia State right where they belong, 0-3 in the conference, bottom of the barrel. Love to see it. Honestly, I really thought Texas State was going to do more of a showing there in the West. Texas State's 0-3. 0-3 in the conference. Kind of figured they'd want to go out on top. They had such a great year last year. Thought they were going to build on that. They're sitting at 3-4 overall, 0-3 in the conference. Really, they're a game worse than Georgia Southern is right now. And South Alabama is stinking it up big time. Georgia State numbers over there, 1-6 and 0-3. Southern Miss and Troy sitting on top, both 5-2 overall, 3-0 in the conference. Arkansas State 2-1, UL Monroe and Louisiana both sitting at 1-2. So things are starting to shape out in the Sun Belt. I honestly think the winner of the Southern Miss Troy game wins the West, and James Madison, to me, is in a runaway in the East. Coastal Carolina sitting at 3-1, but they're not impressive, honestly. They had an 8-point win over App State this week, but they were blown out. They had their backs blown out by Old Dominion just 2 weeks ago, 47-7. And when you look at what James Madison did to Old Dominion, they beat them worse than they beat us. They hung 63 on them yesterday. So I don't think Coastal Carolina is a legitimate threat. Let's look at their wins. They beat 1-6 South Alabama, 38-20. They beat UL Monroe, who is 3-4, 23-8. They squeaked by App State, who is not having a great year, by 8 points. But then if you look a little deeper, they only beat Charleston Southern. That's right, FCS Charleston Southern. Charleston Southern, 13-0. East Carolina blew them out 38-0, and again, Old Dominion blew them out 47-7, and of course Virginia with a 48-7 win over Coastal Carolina, who was down 14 at a half to App State yesterday and came back and found a way to win 45-37. Harping on Coastal Carolina a lot because we got them in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. When do we have them? We have them on November 15th. To me, I'm not looking ahead to that game. We've got games before that, but just just kind of filling out what we got coming up here. Arkansas State next week, 7 p.m. start time on ESPN Plus. We'll get into that a little later. And for whatever reason, can anybody tell me why we're not playing App State on rivalry weekend this year? Why are we playing App State in 2 weeks? Why are we in Boone on the 6th of November instead of the last week of football? Why is Marshall our game on rivalry weekend? Can anybody tell me that? Because I've yet to figure that out. Who is App State even playing on rivalry weekend? Arkansas State. What history do App State and Arkansas State have? Like, what is you doing, Sunbelt? Old Dominion and Georgia State for rivalry weekend? James Madison and Coastal Carolina for rivalry weekend? Was rivalry weekend moved? Did I not hear about that? Because it almost looks like it. I mean, I see Marshall playing JMU the same week we're playing App State. I don't know. It's weird because I can guarantee you other conferences have not changed rivalry weekend because that's usually a college-wide thing. And they're not moving clean old-fashioned hate. Georgia Tech are playing the last weekend of November. The Iron Bowl is going to happen that weekend. The game, Ohio State, Michigan's going to happen then. Florida State's happening then. Army, Navy, it's a little later, but you guys know what I'm saying. End of the season still. Ole Miss and Mississippi State are going to play that weekend. So I don't understand. I don't understand why they're moving. The Sun Belt rivalry games seem to have moved to the second week of November, or not the second week of November, November 6th. It seems like the Sun Belt rivalry games have moved to November 6th, and I don't understand why. But either way, we're going to play whoever lines up across from us on whichever week they show up. So just a little weird to me. But going back to Georgia Southern, Georgia State, again, heck of a win for Georgia Southern. I don't call it a statement win because Georgia State had the ball 5 minutes longer than we had it. They outpassed us. They outgained us. So I don't really look at it as a statement win per se, but I do celebrate it. I do celebrate it because I'm glad to see it. Like I said, we improved in third down efficiency, we improved in turnovers, and we improved in penalties. So that was 3 areas that if you watched the previous podcast, I have been harping on areas that we needed to improve on. And we did this week, and guess what happened? We got a W. So glad to see it. Very excited that we are back in the win column, and I'm hoping that we can just carry that over next week as we travel to Arkansas to play the Red Wolves, and then again the next week in Boone before we come back home for 2 games against Coastal and Old Dominion, finally finishing up at Marshall on the road. It's hard to believe college football season's half over. We're getting close to the first CFP poll. And real quick, something I've skipped over that I meant to address earlier. If you guys are watching me on YouTube, you notice that you can see my eyes this week. Hey, look, my Gamer Advantage glasses finally came in, and I can see again. You guys can see my eyes. There's no blue light effect to me. The glare's gone. I mean, there's a little glare, but it's not what we were experiencing in the first 2 podcasts. So real quick, I want to take a pause and give you a word from our sponsor, Gamer Advantage Eyewear. Take it away.
Hi, Brendan Sapp here, better known in the streaming community as Brendan Sapp 157. I'm here today to talk to you about Gamer Advantage glasses. Before I discovered Gamer Advantage Eyewear, gaming was taking a toll on my eyes. Long hours staring at a screen left me with constant eye fatigue, dry eyes, and restless nights. I was tired, frustrated, and frankly, losing my edge. But then I found Gamer Advantage. These glasses aren't just any gaming glasses, they're a game changer. With their state-of-the-art blue light technology, Gamer Advantage glasses filter out all the harmful blue light that's been keeping you up at night. No more eye strain, no more dry eyes, just clear vision and a great night's sleep. Now, I wake up refreshed, ready to take on any challenge, whether it's IRL or in the game. If you care about your eyes, whether you're a gamer, programmer, or anyone who spends time in front of a screen, I highly recommend Gamer Advantage Eyewear. Protect your eyes, perform at your best. Gamer Advantage. See the game, save your eyes.
Now looking ahead to next week, the Arkansas State Red Wolves are undefeated at home, 3-0. Georgia Southern 0-3 on the road. So Southern going to be looking to pick up that first road win. We certainly would love to see that. Just looking at some of the head-to-head and some predictions. Again, this is on paper stuff. The game's played on the field. Right now, ESPN giving the edge to Arkansas State with a 57.6 win probability. Again, doesn't mean a whole lot. That's just some talking heads like myself. The spread right now is 1.5 points to Arkansas State, so not a big spread on this game. I'm looking at how well are they moving the ball. Their leading rusher is their quarterback. He's got 89 carries for 272 yards, so he's running the ball a lot for a quarterback. Efficiency's not much better than French's. Actually, it's worse. French has 12 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Kid has 9 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Rayner out at Arkansas State, so maybe a factor on why he's running the ball a little bit more. Their leading receiver has 474 yards and no touchdowns. Of course, Camden Brown for Georgia Southern, 35 receptions, 8 touchdowns, 598 receiving yards. Looking a little better there. Of course, my outlook at this game is going to be the same as it was for Georgia State. We got to minimize penalties. We got to be efficient on third downs, and we got to hold on to the ball. Don't turn it over. You can't win games turning the ball over 3 or 4 times a game. We all know that. That's elementary stuff. If you're giving the other team the ball, how are you going to win the game? Right? So control the clock, control the ball. Georgia Southern gets that first road win and hands Arkansas State their first home loss. That's what we want to see. It's going to depend on which Georgia Southern team shows up, honestly. Are we going to see the one that played in the second half against Georgia State? Are we going to see the team that played against James Madison? I hope we don't see that team again this year because that was awful. Well, when you look at Arkansas State, what they've done this year, it's a Jekyll and Hyde story almost. Because you got a team that lost to Kennesaw State and UL Monroe, and then got wins over Texas State and South Alabama, both 1-point wins, might I add. They edged Texas State out 31-30, and then South Alabama 15-14. Mind blown. I mean, that's crazy. But you look at losing to Kennesaw State and UL Monroe. And honestly, they played Iowa State better than they did Kennesaw State. They lost by 12 to Iowa State, 24-16. We won't even mention the Arkansas game because, of course, that's one that you kind of expect them to lose, kind of like when we played USC. You want to see the Sun Belt team win, but you don't really go in expecting it when it's against a team like that. Arkansas been holding their own against Tennessee, and then turn around against Texas A&M, back-to-back weeks holding their own. So the 56-14 win there, it really doesn't surprise me that much. Southeast Missouri State. Yeah, that's who they played to open up the season. They had a decent win, about like our win over Maine, 42-24. I think we beat Maine, 45-17. So kind of similar there, but we don't have any common opponents yet to kind of base anything off of. But squeaking by South Alabama and Texas State, who are this year kind of bottom feeders in the conference. They're the two dead last teams in the West, both 0-3 in the conference. Texas State 3-4 overall, South Alabama 1-6 overall. But you can't really look at that and say, well, we've done better because our only conference wins against Georgia State, who's also 1-6. So you can't really look at it that way. And they are sitting at 2-1 in the Sun Belt, so they're doing better overall than we are. But really hoping for a good showing in Jonesboro. Kickoff again at 7 o'clock on the 25th of October. It's my dad's birthday. He's been gone for almost 22 years, so be nice for Georgia Southern to pick up a win there and have something fun to celebrate on that day. Game's going to be on ESPN Plus. Again, kickoff is at 7 p.m. next Saturday, October 25th. I don't know what the traveling looks like. I don't know if we're traveling with a big crowd this year. We used to travel with a big crowd. Not sure what that's looking like so far this year, especially with a 3-4 record. That tends to dampen crowd participation a little bit. I was very proud to see the student section packed like it was for the whiteout. The kids were there. They were loud. In years past, that's not something we've seen if Georgia Southern was sitting at 2-4. Especially when the Georgia Bulldog game got over right as we kicked off. So glad to see the student section doing what they're supposed to do, showing up, making some noise, making it hard for the opposing team in Paulson to hear the play call and to ever get any real footing. That's the power of Paulson, and I just want to give a shout out to the Georgia Southern student section for doing such an awesome job, showing up and showing out. Let's continue that when Old Dominion and Coastal roll into town in a couple of weeks. But let's focus on next week, Arkansas State. It's the most important game because it is the next one. And like I said, all we can do is look at paper, and paper is pretty much useless in this because games played on the field. I'm going to say Georgia Southern wins this game because I'm always going to say Georgia Southern wins this game. That's just me as an optimist and as a Georgia Southern homer. I'm always going to say Georgia Southern's got this, and I hope I'm right. Really quick, we're going to take a short ad break for one of our sponsors, G Fuel Energy. Take it away.
Fuel your grind, power your play, and stay locked in with G Fuel Energy. When the game gets intense, hydration is everything. That's why I choose G Fuel. Zero sugar, zero caffeine, packed with electrolytes, antioxidants, and vitamins. Whether I'm streaming, grinding ranked, or just powering through my day, G Fuel keeps me focused and fueled. G Fuel, G Hydration, stay fueled, stay unstoppable. Go to gfuel.com and use my promo code BrendanSapp157 at checkout.
Looking at injuries, Terrence Gibbs is still out. Josh Dallas still out. Not sure if they're going to be back for Arkansas State. Would love to see them both back for the Arkansas State game. We've got 3 tight ends out right now. Aubrey Heath, Elijah Walton, and River Helms. Would love to see all of these guys get healthy. Georgia Southern has got 8 players out injured right now. So again, can't wait to see those guys return to the field. And we hope to see the real Georgia Southern show up in Jonesboro next Saturday night. That's all I've got this week, guys. I may pop in with something a little later in the week, a little special thing. We'll see how that plays out. The week's a little more backed off for me than it has been. We're gearing into basketball season with my daughter and my son this coming up week. Softball, we fell short. Robert Toombs fell short in the state playoffs, and CCA claimed their second consecutive state title in the GIAA Division I. But Robert Toombs had a great season. Shout out to the Lady Crusaders as we move into Lady Crusader basketball for my daughter now and for my son with junior pro. Looking forward to getting basketball kicked off this week for them, and looking forward to the rest of this Georgia Southern football season. So if I have some free time, I may pop in a special edition I've been working on talking about Irk Russell and some of the traditions around Irk. Been talking to some guests that we're probably going to have here in a few weeks. Everybody's so busy this time of year, so hopefully I can pin them down and get some stuff going there in just a couple of weeks. But for right now, that's all for this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Blue Mile Breakdown. I am Brendan Sapp. I will see you guys next time. Hail Southern and GATA.
This has been the Blue Mile Breakdown, brought to you in part by Gamer Advantage Eyewear and G Fuel Energy. Make sure to tune in next time as we dive deep into Georgia Southern football.